These are the materials needed for the Easy Street tee. I use Lion Brand yarn, cotton hemp, which is a weight 4 yarn, and for the tutorial I use Citron, but the pictures here for my finished pictures is cherry. You'll need 2 different needle sizes, a 4.5 millimeter needle and then a 4.0 millimeter needle. I have interchangeable needles, so you're also going to need 2 cord sizes, 24 inch and 36 inch. And so with my interchangeable needles, I'm able to unscrew them and then screw them back on, but you can get fixed needles as well. Stitch holders or waste yarn, stitch markers, scissors, and a tapestry needle. The pattern is written for 9 sizes, extra small through 5X. Highlight your size throughout the pattern for ease of reading. Model is 5 foot 7 inches and is wearing a size medium with a 38-inch bust and 1.5 inches positive ease. Tee is worked top down. It begins by working back and forth in rows for the back and to shape the neckline, and then it is joined in the round. Raglan increases are spaced evenly around. Piece is divided at underarms for body and sleeves. Sleeves are put on hold and main body is worked first. Sleeves can be worked in your preferred small circumference method. This pattern calls for magic loop, but double pointed needles work as well. The neckline is picked up and worked in a twisted rib. The hem of the sleeves and bottom of the tee are also worked in twisted rib. This pattern is best viewed with the written pattern up next to it, so you can get the written premium version that is printable right here. It is also a Lion Brand yarn kit where you can get all of the yarn needed to make the tee, and you can choose the yarn color, and you can get that right here. And it's also a free pattern on my blog that you can get right here. To begin the project, I'm using my size 7 4.5 millimeter needles. I'm going to be making the size small in this YouTube tutorial. And now I need to cast on 56 stitches using the long tail cast on method. To do the long tail cast on method, we need to count out 56 stitches to know where to begin our cast on. So to count that out, I'm just going to take my needle and wrap it around my, wrap the yarn around my needle. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And so this is giving me an estimate to make sure I have enough yarn when I do the cast on. So I'm just going to do this for 56 stitches. 53, 54, 55, 56. So that is 56 right here, but I'm going to give myself a little bit extra because it really stinks to do all the work and then realize you don't have enough yarn. So now I'm going to make a slip knot. There's my slip knot. Insert my needle, and the working yarn is on the bottom and then the tail is on the top. To do the long tail cast on, I am going to grab the yarn in between my fingers like this, and then you open it up to create a little space for yourself, and then wrap around the thumb and then the pointer finger. And if you want a more in-depth tutorial, just type in long tail cast on. So this counts as a stitch, the slip knot, and then the one I created. So that's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And so I'm going to do this for 56 stitches. 56 stitches for me. Now we need to have our stitch markers nearby because we are going to be placing stitch markers for row 1. So to do row 1, we're going to need to knit the front and back. To knit the front and back, you insert your needle under that first stitch there and knit it like normal. And then pause, don't take it off your needle, And then you're going to go to the back and knit through the back loop also. And that's knit front and back. So there's my knit front and back. And then it says I need to place a marker. Knit front and back again. So you knit, don't take it off your left needle, and then knit through the back loop like that, and then you take it off your needle, your left needle. And then for my size, I need to knit 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 9. I need to do another knit front and back. So insert your right needle, knit, but don't take it off your left needle. Rotate your left needle so you can see the back, and then knit the back. So now we have the 2 stitches we created, 1 stitch. Take it off your left needle, grab a stitch marker, place it on, and then knit front and back again. So these stitch markers that we're placing are our raglan lines. So every other row we will be doing a knit front and back on either side of the stitch markers, and that's going to give us our increases and give us that nice raglan line. Now I need to knit 30. 1, 2, 3, 29, and 30. Now I need to do another knit front and back. So knit 1, don't take it off your left needle, and then knit through the back loop, and then take it off your needle. Place a stitch marker, knit front and back, knit 9, 1, 2. Now we're going to, we have 2 stitches left. I'm going to knit front and back, place my last stitch marker, and then knit front and back. The next row is a purl row, so there's no increases on this row. We will be working in rows for the first section until we get to the yoke, where we will join at the neck and then start doing rounds. So to do a purl, you insert your needle like that and purl, purl, slip that slip the stitch marker, purl. And so I'm just going to continue purling across row 2 here, and then let's meet back up for row 3. This is what row 2 looks like. I've completed it, so I'm ready for row 3. Row 3 begins by knitting the front and the back for that first stitch. Knit front and knit the back. And then it says to knit until 1 stitch before the next marker, which kind of sounds silly on row 3 because that is the next stitch, but row 5, 7, 9, it will make more sense why it's written like that. So we knit front and back that next stitch, slip the marker, knit front and back, and then knit until 1 stitch before the next marker. Like I said, you will be doing knit front and back on either side of the stitch markers on the knit rows. So here's my stitch marker. I only have 1 stitch left, so I'm going to be doing a knit front and back, slipping that marker, knit front and back, and then knit to 1 stitch before the next stitch marker. And then for the rows that follow, you're going to repeat row 2 for the next row, which is just purling across. And then the next row, row 5, you repeat row 3, which is what we're doing. And you'll repeat that for this many rows, or until you have this many stitches. And then you do 1 more row of repeating row 3. So let's meet back up after we have those specified number of stitches. And then we will do the yoke section where we will learn how to do the backwards loop cast on and joining and starting to work in the round. I completed through row 21. You can see how it's coming together very nicely. I've got my raglan seams 1, 2, 3, and 4. And now I'm ready to do my backwards loop cast on. So to do a backwards loop cast on, you're going to take the working yarn in your left hand, get your thumb ready, and you're going to go over the strand and under to create a loop. You see this loop on my thumb right here? Let me do it again for you. You're going to hold it in your left hand, go over the strand and under it to create a loop, and then you slide that loop onto the right needle. And that's 1 cast on. 1, 2, 3, and when I'm casting it on, I'm using this hand to hold it in place. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Now grabbing a new marker, I'm going to use this marker here, and this is going to indicate my beginning of round. So I just need to remember it. It would be helpful to have this different than your other markers you're using. And so I'm placing that marker on my right needle, and now the pattern says I need to knit to 1 stitch before my next marker. So I need to knit until this stitch right here. So holding the working yarn in my left hand, and then it's connected to my right needle, just knitting like normal now. Knitting like that, and now it's connected. We have joined for the neck. Now, one tip with these backward loop cast-ons, you don't want these to get stretched out. It's okay if they get stretched out, but it just is harder to work it when you get around to it. So I like to try to keep these as close together as I can, so it's easier for me to work it when I come back around. So just knitting to that next marker. There's my last stitch before my last stitch before the marker. So I have my last stitch right here, and I'm just going to knit that front and back like I have been doing. Nothing special about it. Slip that marker, knit front and back like we have been doing. So there's nothing special with this is nothing new that we have been doing. So I'm going to do the rest off camera, and then I'm going to meet back up for this part right here just so I can work the beginning or the backwards loop cast on with you. But everything else, you're just going to increase on each side of the marked stitches, but not the beginning of round marker. And again, try not to get these twisted here. Oh, one more thing I forgot. I should have said this before we did the backwards loop cast on. After you do the backwards loop cast on. After you've done your backward loop cast on, and when you're going to knit into that first stitch right here, double check that you don't have it twisted. I had already done that and I just didn't voice that out loud. So make sure that you don't have it twisted. And then when we work these backward loop cast-ons, it is very easy to twist when you're working them as well. So I'm going to meet back up with you right here and we'll work this section together. I am nearly to the backwards loop cast on. I have 2 more stitches and then I have my 10 backwards loop cast on. So again, this part is very easy to get twisted. So double checking that everything is facing the right way and you're not accidentally looking at the purl side like this. So I'm looking at the knit side on everything. Let me work these last 2 stitches. 1, 2, and now here are my backward loop cast on stitches. So you can see the strand right here and you can see how it crosses like this. So working this stitch like you normally do, you're going to place your right needle under that leg like you normally would for a knit stitch, and then work it as normal. So don't be intimidated by working these backward loop cast on stitches. It's not tricky or hard, but you should be mindful of not twisting the neckline. So just maybe don't go as fast as you normally would be for this section. So this is my 3rd backward loop cast on. I'm accidentally splitting the yarn here. Okay, there we go. There's 3, 4. Here's my 5th one. 5. Here's the 6th one. 7th. 8th. 9th. And my last one, the 10th one. I find that some people have trouble working with this yarn and they say it's because it splits on them. And this is the only part where I have trouble with the yarn splitting on me. And I think it's because the neckline is so delicate and so there's just not enough structure for the stitches to not split. Okay, so I reached my beginning of round marker, so I just slip that and then I'm ready and working row 2. Row 2 is just knit all the way around. We're not going to do increases for this row. So when you reach the 4 raglan markers, you're not going to do increases on either side like we have been doing. So we're going to alternate an increase row and then a knit row of no increases every other row for the yoke section, and then we will meet back up after we have, for my size, after I've done 38 rows from the beginning cast on, or when I have 238 stitches. So let's meet back up there. This is what my tee is looking like. I completed my yoke section and I need to do round 1 of the main body. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to be knitting to my first marker, and then I'm going to be slipping all of these stitches on hold, because these are my sleeve stitches, and so I'm going to be putting all of these stitches on hold to work the sleeve later. So let's begin by doing that. So slipping my beginning round marker, I'm just going to knit to that first marker. Here's my last stitch before the marker. I'm going to knit that, take this marker off, and now I need to put all of these sleeve stitches on hold. To do that, I'm just going to put my my needle stopper on my right needle so I can make sure that those don't fall off while I'm doing this. And then I'm going to use this to put my sleeve stitches on hold. I'll link it in the description, but it's super helpful. What you do is you just put it on the end of the needle, push it on tight to make sure it's nice and secure, and then these slide on a lot easier, and then they go off a lot faster as well. So I just like using this because I find that I can try things on easier with this method, and then you secure it with this little clasp at the end. There I am at my next marker. I've put all of these stitches on this blue cord here. So I am going to take this off the needle, connect it back around to this one. Now these sleeve stitches are safely on hold. The pattern says I need to take off this next slip stitch marker, and then for my size I need to do a backwards loop cast on of 4. So again, using our thumbs, there's 1, 2, 3, and 4. Taking my left needle, I just knit to the next stitch marker and do the same thing of putting these stitches on hold, the next set between these 2 stitch markers. That's our next sleeve. And so I'm going to do the same thing, do the backwards loop cast on, put the stitches on hold, and then I'm able to work the main body. So I'm going to do the rest off camera, and then let's meet back up for the hem. I have reached my desired length for the hem. So now I need to start working on the hem. You can see my one underarm is right here. And so I'm going to follow that down, and it's about right here. I'm going to move my beginning of round marker to right here so that when I end my 5 rows for the hem, that the end will be over here. That way I can weave in the end on the side rather in the front where it will be more noticeable. So I'm going to do that by just moving my beginning of round marker over here. I'm nearly to about where my underarm is. I'm just knitting like normal. Let's do one more stitch. Okay, so I'm going to say this is my new beginning of round marker. So I'm going to slip my marker there. And now I need to start working with the 4.0 millimeter needles. So I do have interchangeable needles here, so I can just like switch out the needle, but I already have 4.0 on this set right here because I was doing something with that. So I'm just, for sake of ease, I'm going to use my 4.0 millimeter in my right hand, and I'm going to knit it onto my 4.0 millimeter needle, and then this is just going to stay 4.5 until I get all the way around, when I will have it on this 4.0 millimeter. So to do a twisted rib, what you're going to do is, instead of inserting your needle through the front like this, you're going to turn your work and knit through the back loop like that. So that's our twisted rib through the back loop, and then a purl. So again, through the back loop like that, and then knit it and purl the next one through the back loop, purl, through the back loop, purl. And like with traditional 1x1 ribbing, you won't really see it take shape too much the first row, but then it will really look nice the second, third, fourth, fifth row. You'll really be able to see it a lot more. So when you get to the second row, you're going to, through the back loop, knit the same ones and then purl the purls to be able to create that 1x1 ribbing. So I'm going to do the rest off camera. Let's meet back up after we've done 5 rows of this, and I'll show you how to bind off. Here are my 5 rows for the hem. So let's learn to bind off. I can take off this stitch marker, because it's going to become obvious where the beginning of a round is soon. And then I'm going to knit through the back loop like normal for that first stitch, purl for the next like normal, and then I'm going to take that first stitch that I did and I'm going to pass it over the second stitch. And that is how you bind off. You see how that stitch is now bound off? So the next stitch is knit through the back loop, and then I'm going to take the second stitch and pass it over the third stitch. The next stitch is purl, take that first stitch that's on my needle, pass it over the one I just did. So you get the idea of it now. So I'm just going to do that all the way around for all of the stitches on my needles, and that is going to bind off the bottom of the hem for me. So let's meet back up on the sleeves. I have one sleeve complete, so let's work on this sleeve together so I can teach you how to do it. We're going to grab our 4.5 millimeter needles, and then you can do, I prefer doing the magic loop method, and so we're going to be doing long corded needles, and I need to get the stitches back onto my needle. So I'm going to slip them back onto my 4.5 millimeter needles. And I'm going to, like I said, I'm doing the magic loop. So I am going to go about halfway, and then I'm going to leave the cord out on this side, and then continue getting the rest of the stitches onto the needle. All of the stitches are on the needle now. You can see like I said, I have the cord out on this side for the magic loop method. Now I'm ready to pick up these stitches here at the underarm. I'm going to pick up 3 stitches at the underarm to give me an even number of stitches to be able to do the 1x1 ribbing after we've done 8 rows. But you can always pick up more if you want. If you're worried about the gapping of the underarm, you can always do a knit 2 together at the corner to try to cinch it in as well, or you can just weave in the tails to close the gaps. I'm just going to follow the pattern where it says I need to pick up 2, then place a stitch marker, pick up 1. So grabbing a strand of yarn, I'm going to pick up 2. So inserting my needle under 2 strands, 1 and 2. Place a stitch marker indicating the beginning of round, and then pick up 1. Now I need to knit all the way around to the beginning of the marker. Let me just do 1 round of that to show you what it looks like with the magic loop method. So nothing special. One thing you may do, I like to mark my first row as well, so it's just easy for me to count out the 8 rows, or rounds I mean. So I'm nearing halfway around round 1 because I'm almost done with this set of needle, and you can see my other half is on this side. So to do the magic loop method, you're going to push this needle back so that the live stitches are on it, and then pull your right needle out so it can be worked, and then leave the cable on that side as well. And then you just continue working down this needle. Just a few more stitches on this needle here. And it doesn't matter where your magic loop is. You can even do it one way, like halfway, and then rotate it if you're feeling it's easier in a different section of the sleeve. So this stitch is going to get a little stretched out because I have my tail here. So keep that in mind, but I'm still going to want to not have this stitch that I just worked be loose. So that is the end of the round because I just slipped my beginning of round marker. I'm going to go back and pull on that tail to tighten that up a bit. So anyway, 8 rounds of working just knit in the round, and then we're going to switch to our 4.0 millimeter needles and do the twisted rib like we did in the hem section. So I'm going to do that off camera. Let's meet back up for the collar. Let's talk about the collar. So for the collar, you're going to need to look at your size to see how many stitches you're going to pick up. And for my size that I'm making, I'm going to be picking up 76 stitches, and it says in the pattern where those 76 stitches come from. You're going to have 1-for-1 stitch picked up along the back neck and then the front of the neck. For these 2 straight sections right here, you're going to do 2 stitches out of every 3. And then there's a specified number along these slanting side stitches. For my size, I'm going to be picking up 10 and 10. So I like to start along the back neck, and these are my 4.0 millimeter needles because we're using that for all of the ribbing portions. And then you're going to pick up for this round here, just like we have been doing. So 1, 2, and I'm picking up, when I insert my needle, I'm going under 2 strands here. 3, 4, 5. So I have my 30 stitches along the back neck. If you're looking to know how many stitches you need for your back neck, if you go to the first section, row 1, when it has you placing markers and knit front and back, when it says knit 28, 30, 32, 36, 38, etc. So 30 is what I need because that's my back neck. Now we're to the straight edge, which is the sleeve. And for this section we cast on, or this section when we first started, if you go up to the pattern section, row 1, you can see we have 9 stitches for the size small, but I'm going to count the raglan stitches as well in this section. So it says I need to pick up 2 out of every 3. So I'm going to pick up about 8 stitches for this sleeve section. So I'm going to go into this stitch right here first to begin. It doesn't really matter where you go for this first stitch or anything, as long as you end up with the amount of stitches at the end that is an even number. So there's 1, 2, and then I'm going to skip. 1, 1, 2, skip. 1, 2, that puts me at 6 stitches now. Skip. 1, 2, and then skip. And that puts me at the correct number, or at the correct spot to be able to do my slanting section. For the size small, for the slanting section, it says that I need 10 stitches. So just space 10 evenly throughout. I already kind of counted where they would go. It's almost every stitch, so I'm going to skip a couple stitches. So 1, 2, I'll probably skip that stitch. 3, 4, 5, 6. Let's kind of see how we're doing. 6, 7, 8, 9, and then 10. Okay, so I'm going to skip that next one and put it right here. 9, and then 10. I'm going to put it right here. Perfect. So that's my slanting section. For this neck cast on, for my size, I did 10. So there should be 10 stitches I pick up here. 1, 2, 3, and 10. There's my 10 stitches along the front neck. Now I'm to the slanting section again. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to place 10 stitches along the slant here. 1, 2, 3, there's my 10 for the slanting section. We're back to our straight edge, and so we have 8. We need a space here. I'm going to put my first stitch right before that raglan. So 1, 2, skip, 1, 2, skip, 1, 2, skip, 1, and 2. So that puts me at 8 for this section. So now I need to place my stitch marker. Here's my stitch marker I'm going to use for the beginning of round. And so we're just doing a twisted rib like we've done for the hem and the sleeves. So through the back loop and then purl. Through the back loop, purl. So I'm going to do 5 rounds of this, and then I'm going to bind off like I showed you how to do. And so I'm going to do the rest off camera, and that's how you do the Easy Street tee. I have a whole collection of Easy Street beginner patterns that are knit ones that are great to try out. I have an Easy Street tank, an Easy Street sweater, an easy roll tee, and I'm actively working on making more to add to this collection, so be sure to check out the landing page for this collection and you can get that right here. So anyway, thanks for joining me today. Bye. Hey friends, thanks for joining me on today's video. I have this video right here that I think you'll really enjoy, so go check it out and be sure to subscribe for more crochet and knit tutorials. My name is Rachel from Cozy Nooks Designs, and happy making!